everyone, welcome. I'm Kiki Halbert and welcome to Stretch the Sketch. This month I'm going to be using a Page Maps card sketch and stretching it to a 12 by 12, so stay tuned if you want to see how I do that. This month I'm going to be using continuing to use the You Are Enough collection from Close to My Heart. It is a beautiful collection full of rose gold, foil, and all kinds of goodies. You'll see me using it quite a bit. I'm going to run through how I've done this, how I'm going to stretch the sketch to 12 by 12. As you saw, the sketch was full of papers that are cut at an angle, so I'm going to be doing that. And I'm going to show you how I work through that process myself. They're going to be angled on all kinds of different angles. I'm just going to be eyeballing these and then cutting them. So I'll show you that process. But if you're not interested in seeing that, just skip through the first 10 minutes or so, or about 9 minutes. And that will get you to where I am in terms of the embellishments and having the completed page with the papers cut. I do have some tricks for you later on in the video about how to create your own embellishments. I'm going to be using some Picture My Life cards. I'm going to use a Picture My Life card for the title, and you'll see how I do that and make it my own. And also how I'm going to come up with some embellishments that did not come with the collection, but are created from the Picture My Life cards. So stay tuned to watch that. And if you haven't been here before, I really appreciate a thumbs up if you enjoy watching the channel and watching this video. And if you have been here before but watch them occasionally, make sure that you subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate that. I'm celebrating just over 500 subscribers, so I'd really appreciate your being here, and click the notification bell if you want to be notified of my future videos, and that way they'll come up for you on a regular basis. So I really appreciate that. This month as well, as I said, we're doing Stretch the Sketch, and I did want to let you know that there are some talented ladies that are following along. This is the first time that I've been on this YouTube hot for Stretch the Sketch. So check the description box below and you'll see a list of ladies that are playing along, and visit their channels to see how they're going to use some sketches and stretch them this month. The group generally does a 12 by 12 sketch and stretches it out to a 2-page layout. But this month we're allowed to choose our own sketch, and so to challenge myself, I decided to use that card sketch because I oftentimes look at them but don't think about stretching them out to a 12 by 12. So watch how I'm going to do this. As again, this is a sketch that is from Page Maps, and it's got all these lovely angles on it. And so that's what I'm doing here. So the first paper you saw that it's a straight edge on the left, but I cut it on an angle, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to measure these out so that I have them all in different angles and match up the papers so that they're flush with one another into a 12 by 12. So you see, I just flipped that around just so that you could see that I am going to line it up, the corner to corner. And I'm going to do the first angle first, and then I'll show you how I end up cutting the rest of it afterwards. So I'm just going to take the paper, cut it corner to corner. I'm using a Stabilo pencil so that I have a nice clear mark to follow. And I'm going to cut that from the corner to the Stabilo mark on my trimmer. And now what I'm going to do is I'm not quite sure how much I want to leave on the paper, so I'm going to put it down just to get an idea of how much I want to show at the top. So I'm just going to create a crease of there to see, to have something to guide me in my cutting. And for whatever reason, my trimmer totally missed the mark on that one. It didn't cut it at all. So I'm just going to cut that down. So I'm using an adhesive tape runner here, just so I can get these papers down. And you'll see some of these papers are just really gorgeous. And I'm going to use a variety of them for the base. But then I'll show you how I also use them to create some embellishments for this collection. This collection is just gorgeous, by the way. If you'd like to see more of the collection, feel free to take a quick look in the description box below, and you will see the link to my website where you can see all the detailed papers and things like that. It's a lovely collection that has come out as a promotion, so it's only available for a short time. And if you do choose to put in an order, thank you very much, but please don't feel like you're obligated to go and look at it or anything. I'm loving the papers, and I want people to see them in use. So thanks for looking if you do. So I'm going to now, again, I'm going to take a certain amount of paper. I know that I want to leave a little bit of that base page so that I have my fourth paper that's going to be there. So I'm just going to mark off the 4 spots on this particular paper and cut them in the different areas, and you'll see that again I'll have another layer there, and it's just going to create this really interesting background that's going to show off the 4 papers but not take away from the embellishments and the photos. And you'll see how I do that in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to use a really gorgeous navy paper again to bring in more of that dark blue, the sapphire, and then yeah, I'll have my base page created. So I'm really pretty thrilled about how it turned out. I wanted to know too, sorry about that, I'm just kind of got a frog in my throat today. I wanted to know too if you ever create your own backgrounds. I am a big fan of creating your own backgrounds using a variety of papers or stamps, sometimes embellishments as well. So let me know if that's something that you do. And if you do you have like a base that you go to on a regular basis? I noticed that Laura Alberts has she has a video series right now about creating kind of templates or go-tos, your go-to designs. And I really thought that was an interesting concept. Whether, you have a go-to design for your base pages. Excuse me. So let me know if you do have a go-to in the comments below. I'd really be interested to see that. Because I don't usually I don't think that I have a base design or a go-to design that I often will use, but occasionally I do like to kind of go back to layered vertical designs, but this one I think is going to become a new favorite for me, I think. So I'm going to this one here is of course going to have a straight edge on the right. I don't know why I kind of was thinking differently about that, but you'll see that I'm taking a lot of this paper that's just really, I love the design of that section. So that's going to be the last part of my paper that's going to go on my base. And you'll see that they all sort of come together, they all kind of flow, and even though the vertical paper is kind of right next, or that sort of kind of washed painty paper is next to the burgundy paper, and they're not going in the same direction, I find that they will still work. And you'll see, because once I've got the papers down and have it all trimmed to the 12 by 12, you'll actually see that with the photos down, it creates this really kind of neat visual effect. So I'm just going to trim off the edge of one that I saw that was just hanging over the edge a bit there. So I'm just going to trim those off. And now we have our base. So I really love how that turned out. I really, and I can play around with it in all kinds of different ways, right? Move it around. But I have these 2 photos. And this was a trip that my husband and I took to Oregon. I'm trying to figure out how I want to place the photos, but I do kind of want to stick to the original sketch. So I've backed these on, again, some pink and rose gold foiled cardstock that comes with the collection. And now I'm going to start creating my own embellishments. So these are the thin cuts that came with the collection. It also came with a beautiful stamp and thin cut collection, some sequins, but not a lot more than that other than a sticker sheet. So I'm going to show you the sticker sheet and what I think I'm going to play with there. There's not a lot. I was kind of trying to think about what I was going to do about journaling. So I think I'm going to use this journaling sticker. And what I'm going to do is I don't want these stickers to be, to actually be stickers. I want to be able to move them around. So you'll see how I do that later on. So what I'm going to do first off is I'm going to look through my Picture My Life cards to see if there's anything there that I want to use. You'll see that they're double-sided. So sometimes I kind of want to keep them for use later. But I do have this one here, Make Today Count. I really like that, and you'll see how I'm going to turn that into a really interesting title rather than just leave that big chunk of paper as a title on the page. And I'm going to go through the larger Picture My Life cards and see if there's any that I want to turn into embellishments. I really do love the way that they do the double-sided papers. But I don't always use like a big 4x6 card on my paper. So this one here I really like because I can actually use two sides of it. There's the blue side and there's the pink side. So if I really want to, I can actually fussy cut out the pictures and the graphics and use those. So I'm going to fussy cut out this blue paper. I'm going to do this really quickly. But I'll show you that I don't make this really complicated in terms of fussy cutting. It's a line graphic and I don't want it to be too delicate. I do want some of that paper to come through. That paper is just beautiful, and it's got kind of a watercolor effect. So I'm just going to do this just, you know, with a little bit of detail and leave some of the cardstock behind the actual graphic so that it's a little bit big but still has some of the delicate design to it. And I'm not a big fussy cutter. If you know me, I am not a fussy cutter boy, but I'm getting used to it. And I watched a video by Laura Alberts about her tips and tricks for fussy cutting because she's a fussy cutting maniac. That woman takes a lot of pages from like Paige Evans and things and cuts them all down. I can't even fathom doing that. I'm just a little OCD that way, I guess. But she's got a great video if you want to see how to do that. And I've really learned a lot about fussy cutting, especially in the way that I hold the scissors to make it a little bit easier on myself. So I've got that fussy cut out finally. And now I'm going to actually use the thin cuts and I'm going to make some beautiful dimensional butterflies. So one of the things that I've really enjoyed is working with the die cuts from Close to My Heart. They've come out with some really gorgeous ones. So you'll see I've used a variety of papers and I'm going to glue these down. I'm just going to use some, this is my Scotch Quick adhesive. It's a quick dry. It's quite nice, but it gives you a little bit of wiggle room time to move things around. So I'm just going to put some on the center of the body and get these stuck down to the bases. And I'm going to set them aside and figure out where I'm going to actually create these. These papers make beautiful, beautiful layered butterflies. I'm just making the small butterflies this time around, but the large butterfly on this thin cut design has 3 layered butterflies. So if you love butterflies, this is a thin cut design you need to have, I'm sure, because there's so many possibilities with it. So I've got those down. So now I'm going to take my page back again and I'm looking at the design, and I think at this point I decided that I actually want to have them double matted with navy so that it would bring more navy into the center. I'm trying to decide whether I wanted to have that rose gold or whether I wanted to just have sapphire and cardstock. And so I'm just going to use the sapphire cardstock. It's double-sided, and you'll see that it was two-toned. So I'm going to use the darker tone. And I'm just going to double matte these just to bring in a little bit of detail again, and just have them set out against the background. The pink, I think, was a little too light. I do really like having the rose gold on there on the pink cardstock, and that's ballerina cardstock, by the way, if you're using our Close to My Heart cardstock. And so I'm just going to cut those, double matte them, and then separate those. And I could have gone vertical with these, but I really do just kind of want a nice little base for it. And again, my trimmer, I think I'm trying to be too quick on my trimmer, quite honestly. So it's been annoying me lately. But I'd still love my trimmer, but it makes me think that every now and then I want to get a guillotine. So do you have a favorite trimmer that you use and that's really reliable? This one seems to be pretty reliable for me. I think probably because of that aluminum bar. I did have a rotary Fiskars punch or trimmer that I loved, but it started cutting the papers crooked, and so I got a new one. But you'll see also that what I've done is I have cut the Make Today Count down into strips, and I'm going to figure out how I'm going to use what I'm definitely going to use in terms of the stickers. So to make your stickers into die cuts so that you can move them around really easily, just grab yourself a pouch for that, of embossing powder, the ones that are the anti-static embossing pouches, and just tap that on the back. And all that does is it covers up the sticky with that little bit of powder and makes it so that you can use those like die cuts now, and move those around wherever you want to play with them. And I really like that tip. I got that from Missy Wyden, and I really enjoy that tip because I don't like pulling things off of my sticker sheets and then having to figure out right away where I'm going to put the stickers. And that makes things so much easier in terms of playing around and designing how you're going to use your clusters and things like that, how you're going to create your clusters. So I'm also going to use these little vines, and these little vines also are available as stamps with the collection, but I decided that I was just going to use the rose gold ones. I really do want to bring a lot of rose gold into this paper. And so now what I'm going to do, I'm playing around with where I want this sort of floral stem embellishment. And I'm going to actually create my title now. I'm going to do it really easily. I'm going to create some banners, not just leave the strips as they are. And that way they can make, they add a little bit more interest to the page. And I can move around the title, whether I want it all horizontal underneath the photos, or whether I want to stack them one on top of the other. I can overlap them one on top of the other a little bit if I want to. So that's one tip that I have for you, is that you can always, if you have stickers, if you have Picture My Life cards or Project Life cards, whatever you want to use, you can always cut out the titles and into strips, and then move them around however you like them. So this is how I'm going to use my title. I'm not using any stickers or alpha sheets or anything like that, alphabets. I'm just, I just created the banners by using a Project Life card and then cutting those down. So I hope you enjoy that tip. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, and that helps me know whether my tips are useful for you guys. So I'm thinking like I'm going to layer the title down there. I really do like the balance that it brings to the navy that's there, but I'm also going to play around a little bit with these, with the clusters, of how I'm going to make these clusters. And I really do love all the rose gold. I love how the butterflies are layered. But I'm just going to play around with these a little bit. The trick for me was trying to figure out exactly where I was going to put this journaling spot. It's the biggest embellishment that you'll see. So my one tip that I have in terms of how to create your clusters and where to put things is figure out your largest piece. So although the title takes up more space, the journal cluster I can't cut up, right? The journal spot. So I want to figure out where I'm going to put that journaling spot first, and then I'll put everything else down on the page. And that way it gives me, it gives me the base for a cluster there, and then I can figure out where I'm going to put the other items. Then once I've got my larger items down, I can start playing around with the clusters and adding them. So I kind of like how I had the banner there, but I don't end up with that exactly where it is. You'll see I play around with these. I love the butterflies. I've got like 4 or 5 butterflies that I've created, but I'm going to scatter them around the page in different ways. And then I also have these little twigs that are rose gold. So I'll play around with those. In the end, I don't end up with anything exactly where it is right now. But the one thing I do know is that I do want those photos to be horizontal. So I'm going to put those down on the page first and then figure out the rest of my clusters. Get those down. These photos actually were sent to me by my in-laws. They're from a trip that we took in Oregon. And I absolutely love them. But they're not in focus. So, I think our tendency as scrapbookers is not using bad photos. But honestly, if they're the only photos that you have of a particular event, use them. You can make mention of why they look so bad in the journaling if you really want to. I kind of played on that. You'll see, you might be able to read the journaling later when you see the close-ups. But these photos, even though they're a little bit fuzzy, you can still see that my husband and I are really enjoying the Oregon coast and our time there. And that was something that I wanted to get down on a layout, because we rarely take pictures of ourselves together, and having like a candid of each other, like we don't have those. So I don't care if the photo's fuzzy. It still shows me smiling and enjoying myself. And so I wanted to make sure that I was going to have that on the page and document that. So, sometimes the photos don't always turn out perfectly. And you know me, I enjoy the perfectly imperfect. So I do kind of bring attention in the journaling to the fact that the photos are fuzzy. But you work with what you've got. If if that's all you have, document it. Who cares if the photos don't look terrific? I'm also, back in the 80s and the 90s when I had my first, cameras, I took a lot of snapshots. I wasn't a great photographer. I didn't take portrait photos or things like that. And I've resisted kind of taking those snapshot photos, which, by the way, were not digital because we didn't have digital at the time, and figuring out, like, how am I going to scrapbook these? Because it's like, well, it's not the greatest photo. But you know what? The event happened, and I want to document that. So I'm going to start focusing on the fact that, these are events that happen to me that need to be documented. And if the photo is imperfect, then, there are other things that I can do to make sure that the photo makes it onto a layout. I can journal more about it. I can crop the photo, clean up, I could scan the photo and clean up the photo a little bit with Photoshop or something like that. So I'm going back, by the way, I've used some foam tape to pop up these banners, but my foam tape ran out, so I went back to my adhesive squares. I haven't used those a lot lately because if you watch some of my first videos, I used to have real trouble getting these little backings off. Charlotte Green was one of the people who gave me a tip to use like sort of a weeder or some tweezers or something like that. But I don't seem to be having as big a deal with the larger squares, so I'm okay with that one. So you see, I've totally changed the concept of where the butterflies were going to go. I changed how that title is going to lay down there. So that title and the journaling box are actually going to become the largest cluster. And they're down below the photo that is in focus, or as close to focus as possible. So draws the eye to the great photo, but I've still got the other photo on the page. And I'm just, I love the photo. So I'm going to put down a couple more butterflies, the bottom butterflies, and then we're just about finished. I really, really love the navy butterfly. It's got so much of the rose gold foil on it. It's just, I love it so much. So I've just added a few little details. I'm still adding a few little things, trying to figure out if I'm going to do any other, I don't know, what can I say, splatters or anything like that. I still have one little twig that's rose gold, so I'm just going to tuck that underneath. And it still had a bit of the sticky part to it, so it's stuck down there. Plus the little heart there is glued down, so it tucked under. So here's some close-up for you, but I'll have better still photos at the end. So I really appreciate you being here. I hope you enjoyed watching me with the layout and stretching this sketch. And if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it if you do that. And you'll see all this beautiful rose gold. I hope you'll visit all the ladies that are down in the description below to see their sketches and layouts. And make sure to have a great day. Thanks again.